ಕೊಡ್ತು
Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Disciple Learning Forum. I hope can Shikumar confirm me? Can you hear the audio perfectly?
Yes, I can hear you very well.
Thank you very much. Once again, welcome all for Disciple Learning Forum.
Salim, your voice is very low.
My voice is very low. Is it okay now? Is it okay? Okay now? Can you hear me perfectly? Hello, Shikumar, can you please confirm me?
Yeah, I can hear you
Sure.
properly. No problem.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you very much for your confirmation. Hello, welcome all for Disciple Learning Forum. This is just an audience. It's a request from Disciple. I request everyone to remember this thing. A new learning is always difficult initially, but it becomes habit eventually. This is a quote from Disciples India for everyone. And also request everyone kindly mute your audio. You can switch on your video if you want to see, but can mute your audio. And request everyone to ask any question or any interruption. You can note it down. At the end of the session, will be providing a time. So on that time, request everyone to ask your questions or we can have a good discussion. Starting for today's agenda. Today's agenda will go like this. After the introduction of Disciples India, we'll also deeply go into like journey of Disciple India group and Disciple India Learning Forum. Small introduction journey we'll understand. Then we'll have an introduction of a speaker. Then we'll start our session. So this is our agenda. A quick introduction about Disciple India Learning Forum. Our major vision is to excel and focused and fulfilling learning destination for new age growth aspirants. Our mission is we will be practice based professional training and consulting platform through novel and relevant process of transformation to individual and organization. Our quality policy till DIG conforms to quality management system in line with 9001 2015 and commits to maintain a quality its service delivery through continuous evaluation and regular upgrading our system, and every member of its team is committed to deliver quality service to create value for its client. Our core values are honesty, hard work, healthy, honor and happiness. Disciple India Learning Forum, Bangalore is happy to present a platform purely a joy of learning. It is to be an excited learning platform where a like-minded individual, corporate employees, or organizations can come together, share their experience, learn and grow individually, can have a very good growth mindset with this joining committee and have a growth individually, professionally and organization wise. DIL Forum major objectives are to provide a platform to share and exchange ideas and experiences, to create and develop a personal and professional network of learners, to enhance effective communication and leadership skills, to foster learning and contribute for personal, professional, and organizational development, to update with life management skills and contribute as an effective member to the society. Disciple India Learning Forum Organizing Committee members 2022. This session is started 4 years and our advisor founder Dr. A.M. Suresh and DIL Forum Organization Committee 2022 member President Dr. Sandhya N, our Vice President Mr. Muthu Kumar, our Secretary Mr. Partho Mathai, our Joint Secretary, Dr. Satish M, Treasurer of DIL Forum, Mr. Shivkumar KM, and our Executive Member, Mr. Akhilesh NM. Disciple India Learning Forum, we have completed 93 learning sessions from last 4 years till date. This is our 94th session. Today, this session is an associate partner with Sri Aurobindo College, Modi Road, Mahalakshmipuram, Bangalore. And today's session is by our guest speaker, Sri Kumar Narayan, founder and CEO of BYGC. Our topic is Indian bank industry changes and challenges for banking career. And I request Professor Madhura to give an introduction speech about our guest speaker.
ನನಗೆ ಅದು ಎಲ್ಲ ಹೂವ ತೆಗೆದ್ರು ಅದು ತೆಗ್ದು ಇಷ್ಟ ದಿನ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಹುಚ್ಚದು 3 days ಎಷ್ಟು ಗಟ್ಟಿ ಇದೆ
Madhura ma'am,
ಎಷ್ಟು ಗಟ್ಟಿ ಇದೆ
hope you are in line.
Sorry?
I think someone is request someone to mute. Yes, Madhura ma'am, you can take over and you can start introducing our guest speaker. Please, ma'am.
Thank you, Salim, for this opportunity to
ಇವತ್ತೇನು
introduce me the guest. I am
ಏನು ಟೈಮಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ಹಾಕಿಲ್ಲ
Madhura R from Sri Aurobindo College.
ಹಾಕಿದಾರಾ
I take this opportunity to introduce our college as well. Sri Aurobindo College is a unit of Rajajinagar Education Society's Sri Aurobindo Group of Institutions, managed by a selfless and committed team of retired government officials whose passion has created distinct mark in the field of higher education. Accredited by NAC 3 times, the institution is permanently affiliated to Bangalore University with 2F and 12B recognition by UGC. With a view to develop Sri Aurobindo College as a quality education center to empower the youth with education that hones competence, confidence, and conduct, the institution has been striving hard to achieve its mission of providing educational opportunities to all the aspiring youth through innovative and supportive institutional activities. With a vision to impart the culture of innovation and startup ecosystem through sustained excellence with focus, the institution has constituted Sri Aurobindo Innovation and Entrepreneurship Council in line with National Innovation Startup Council, that is NISP. Sri Aurobindo College also helps the youth to excel in life by developing academic excellence, fostering values, creating civic responsibilities, and building global competence. The college offers undergraduate courses in commerce, management, and computer science, that is BCom, BBA, and BCA, and PG courses in commerce, that is MCom. I also am very happy to introduce the distinguished speaker, Mr. Shri Kumar Nayak, for this. I would like to introduce our distinguished speaker, Mr. Shri Kumar Nayak. After working for a total of 26 years with two of the best known banks in the country, Mr. Shri Kumar gave up his corporate career in 2020 when he was bitten by the startup bug. He founded Big C with two of his friends dedicated in bridging the skill gap in the BFSI domain. The Bangalore-based EdTech startup already counts major banks like HDFC, DBS, federal banks, and many more as its clients. He believes that the skill shortage in booming BFSI industry is largely underappreciated by the industry, and it needs to work jointly with the educational setup to address this as priority. He started his career as a probationary officer with the erstwhile State Bank of Travancore in 1992, and then spent the next 18 years contributing to the growth story of HDFC Bank, where he specialized in retail banking. He quit in 2020 when he was Senior Vice President at HDFC Bank. He has done PGDGM with NIMS and NDP at IIM Ahmedabad. Welcome you to the session, sir, and thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule and joining us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Madhu. Salim, can I start?
Sir, you can start your session. You can take
Is my sound clearly audible?
green.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Perfectly. In 1 minute, sir. Thank you, Madhura ma'am, for a very simple and great introduction. Now it's time, sir, we can start now.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. And thanks to everybody who have taken time off on this weekend, Saturday evening, to find time for such a learning session is really something that indicates to me that people are really serious, right? Normally, it is very difficult to get people on a weekend. So let's, without wasting much time, get into the core of the subject that I'm here to discuss with you. So it's about banking career challenges, changes that is happening in the industry, and what kind of opportunities come up for, especially for those people who are looking for jobs in this sector. So, but you can meanwhile all through the session keep typing in your questions if you have any, either in the Q&A or in the chat box, and we will try and address them towards the end. So that we are able to cover this session first, let's say in another 45 minutes or so, and then hopefully we can come back to you for answering some of your specific questions. Okay, so what does the job market look like? And I'm starting with that broadly because all of you should understand as to where does this industry fit in the overall economy, right? So this is a data point that was extracted just before COVID struck. There's no point in looking at the data over the last 2 years for one simple reason, that a lot of industries went through a lot of upheavals in the last 2 years, right? So therefore, it may not be the right benchmark for us to look at. So this is the benchmark that was available just before COVID happened. So what does this indicate? Actually, this was a survey done by ACE Equity amongst the listed companies. So it does not obviously take into account all the unlisted companies. There are millions of unlisted companies, but these are the largely corporate sector. So within that corporate space, what you will see here, the larger job, the industry which contributes the maximum job. While most of us tend to think that IT will be the largest segment in terms of manpower addition, right? What this data point showed, at least for that year, was IT was actually contributing to about 20%. 1/5 of the, so if there are 5 people getting a job, 1 person was getting into IT. And what you will see in the graph for banks, the dark blue shade on the left side, banks was actually slightly higher than IT at 21%. And if you add the finance, which is just below the bank, you will see a small, a dark green kind of shade, 5.5% in finance. So if you take that as a combination between banks and finance, that's about 26.5. So from every 5 new jobs getting added, or rather 4 new jobs getting added, 1 of them happened to be in banking and financial industry, right? So that's how significant this industry is in terms of job opportunity for all of you. So this is an important aspect to remember, especially for people who are just coming out of college now or in the near future, that if they already have banking in their radar, they should be now feeling a little more confident that this industry actually takes a lot of people. And if you don't have yet banking in your radar, maybe it's time for you to rethink your options and maybe incorporate banking or financial services also somewhere in your radar, so that as and when you complete your graduation and looking for a job, there is this booming sector that you can capitalize on. Another important thing that young people would be interested in knowing is, okay, one is about, okay, does it have enough job opportunities? And the second important thing that people would like to know is that whether do they pay well? So there is no point in looking at a job if that sector is not rewarding from your perspective. If they don't give you a decent salary and if it doesn't give you good growth opportunities, then you may still not want it, right? So how does banking or financial services overall stand in this respect? Now, according to a study, banking and financial services and insurance are amongst the top paymasters in the country. What it typically means is that an average guy getting into a banking and financial services or insurance industry actually ends up being the top of the heap in terms of the general average salary levels, right? So this is one comfortable fact from your perspective, that the job also gives a decent enough salary for you. What kind of jobs exist in these banks, and where are which kind of jobs give you the best salaries or the best income for you? BFSI sector puts a premium on customer handling, sales and relationship skills. And these are the kind of profiles where there are more number of job opportunities for you, as well as these are the segments where you will also get the best salaries or the best income from your perspective. Broadly, when you say customer handling, sales and relationship, broadly it means one and the same, that you are interacting with customers and you are getting business from them, solving their problems in the process. So that is what the kind of job in this industry, in the overall banking and financial services industry, which is the most rewarding. So if you want to look at banking as a job option, then you should be considering a customer handling role. It will have elements of sales, relationship banking and all that also. Some amount of customer service, maybe a very small portion of operational work also. But largely customer facing roles, handling customers, handling their issues, handling their banking problems, and also getting more business from them. So that's the kind of work that will help you get better rewards. This is extracted by me from a jobs and salaries primer report. It's a report by Team Lease, right? So while with my experience in banking, I can tell you that this is exactly correct. But I also wanted to rely upon some third party to give you that perspective, that it's not just that I am saying so. The industry or the people who actually look at these things also say the same thing. While I said banking is a good paymaster or amongst the top paymasters, there is one important difference between banking industry and what you will see in other industries in especially in a Bangalore kind of market. So there are a lot of startups, people like us, or there are lots of other similar industries who also hire people. What you will notice is that the bank's starting salaries are not very, very high. And when I say that, I am specifically referring to the private sector banks. In public sector banks, the salaries are quite decent when you start your career with. So in a public sector bank, let's say if you're joining as a probationary officer, your salaries per month, salary will be in the range of 50,000-60,000 rupees per month, right? As a bank officer in a private sector bank, however, your starting salaries are much smaller. It will be in the range of 20,000-25,000 per month, right? But the huge difference is that the job opportunities are largely in private sector bank. There are only very few vacancies that exist in PSU banks. Government banks, the number of vacancies are very limited, whereas in private sector bank, the number of opportunities are far higher. But in private sector bank, once you get the entry, once you get start working with them, and you start with this 20,000-25,000 kind of salary, over the next 3, 4, 5 years, you will see drastic increase in your salary. your salaries will keep going up every year quite substantially. Especially if you are a decent enough performer, you will start seeing your salaries matching up and even beating other industries once you start crossing some 4 or 5 years of working. So it may not pay you the best when you're joining, but it's a very rewarding career after a few years of not very long years, but even some 3, 4, 5 years down the line also, you will start seeing a significantly higher salary in your hands, right? So that's the kind of industry that we're talking about. Since I mentioned about private sector banks and PSU banks, I thought it is also important to give you a perspective around where is this industry. So the topic of today's discussion is also about Indian banking industry and what are the changes that are happening there. And the most important change that is happening in the banking space today is the private sector becoming larger and larger and public sector banks becoming smaller in comparison. The market size of the private sector bank, the business share of the private sector bank is going up quite substantially now. So what you will see here that if you see the number of branches that have increased in the last 3 years, right? Or whether it is private sector bank or public sector bank. So what happened in private sector bank? The number of branches increased by 37% in 3 years' time. What happened in PSU banks? It actually fell by 6%. Meaning the number of branches, actually they closed down branches, right? So why did that happen? Because the PSU banks got into a merger move. From a government perspective, they wanted to merge the PSU banks and reduce the number of branches and all. That's about branches. But what happened to the actual business, which is the deposits and advances, the credit side of the business, which is what the banking business is all about. If you see the growth that is happening in private sector bank, deposits grew by 58%. When you see similar figure for PSU bank, deposits grew by 23%. So when PSU banks grew by 23%, private sector banks grew by 58%. In advances and loans, PSU banks grew by 12%, private sector banks grew by 44%. Right? So that's the kind, this slide is indicative of the most important changes that are happening in the banking space. Now, from your perspective, from all of you young college graduates who are passing out, from your perspective, what is happening on the manpower or in terms of the employment, right? Between these private sector bank and PSU banks, what is happening on the employment side? And the table below is indicative of what is happening on the employment side. So if you look at the officers count, number of officers, because PSU banks are both officers and clerks, right? So if you see the officers count, in 3 years' time, in the PSU banks, actually the number of officers were reduced. It fell by about 5,000 numbers. It is not that they are not hiring. They are hiring a few thousands every year, but they have much higher people who are retiring from their service. So the net employment, the net number of people working there has actually fallen, right, in PSU banks. Whereas in the non-PSU bank, what I've shown as others, largely private sector banks and small finance banks, in the 3-year time span, the number of officers increased by 1.89 lakhs. And this is a big item for you to note. So whereas in PSU bank, the employment opportunities are very limited and actually the manpower is getting lower and lower. In private sector bank, the manpower is going up quite substantially, right? Now, if you just see the total number of officers, PSU bank now have 4 lakh officers, whereas in private sector, there are already 6 lakh plus officers. That indicates that the private sector has already overtaken the PSU banks in terms of the number of people, right? And they are also adding a lot of people. And these are like very interesting things for you from your perspective. When you look at the clerical staff, what you will see in the table is the PSU banks, the clerical staff, number of people have reduced by 32,000. Again, because of retirement and all those stuff, right? Private sector banks don't hire office clerks too much. So therefore, that number is very small, 8,000, right? So what you will see net, if you add up both between officers and clerks, right? Something like 2 lakh people have been added in private sector bank in that 3-year period. And these are net additions, right? Whereas in the PSU bank, the number has actually fallen by about 35,000. Actually, there is a reduction by 35,000. Whereas in private sector bank, the numbers have gone up by 2 lakhs, right? So that's like the big change that all of you should be aware of. And therefore, from your perspective, if you're looking at a banking sector as an opportunity for you to get into, then you will realize by looking at this graph that the single biggest opportunity that you will have will be in the private sector bank. Yes, there are opportunities in PSU banks also, but that opportunity will be much limited in scope. So across all the PSU banks nationally, they might be adding some 10, 20 people, 10, 20,000 people every year. And then they have another 40, 50,000 people retiring every year, right? Whereas in terms of gross addition in private sector bank, they will be adding gross at least 1.5 lakh fresh people every year into the employment of private sector bank, right? Which means that there is a lot of opportunity for people like you to look at private sector banks as a career options for you. So let's move on. So now that was one important challenge in the banking sector. There is another hugely important challenge in the banking space. Not challenge per se, it is a big change that is happening in the banking space. So don't get lost in the graph that I'm showing right now, but hear to me for 2 minutes. If you look at banking about 30 years back, that was before privatization, or let's say even about 20, 25 years back also, banking was largely a very manual work. So banks used to have a lot of big ledgers or registers, and a lot of paper document filling, register filling exercises, what a banker's typical job was. So when people like me started my career in State Bank way back in 92, we had a lot of physical work, operational work, sitting in branches from morning till night. We were sitting and doing data entry in registers, right? There were a huge number of registers and ledgers, and every entry used to get reflected in some 5, 6 different places. The whole day we were spending in adding up entries, deleting entries, totaling up, and that was our entire day's job in banking. So banking was more like accountancy work, right? This was a story about 25 years back. Then what happened? Computerization got introduced in banking industry, right? So over the last 20, 25 years, computers became more ubiquitous in the sense that banks, most of the registers were removed and the registers and files were replaced with computers. Although the work in the banks changed, but what was a change? Actually, the pen was replaced with a keyboard. That was the only change. So everything that was being entered in a register was now getting entered in the computer. But basically, the data entry work was still happening. Instead of writing it with a pen and paper, it was now being entered using a keyboard into the computers. So that was a change that happened over the last 20 years back. But in the last 5-10 years, there was another big change. And this is very, very phenomenal change. What changed now in the last 5-10 years? So when computerization came, the bankers were still sitting in branches doing data entry using keyboard and mouse and whatever, right, into the PC. But they were still sitting in the office and doing operational work. What happened over the last 5 years plus, especially, is the advent of mobile. Everybody in this country now has a mobile phone. Most of them have a smartphone, and internet and data plans have become very cheap, with telecom also booming in the country and elsewhere in the world. So what happened? Everybody had a mobile and banks started offering mobile banking. So all their solutions were now available on the mobile. Some other solutions were anyway available in the ATM, right? So if you want to withdraw cash, you will go to an ATM. You will not go to a bank now. If you want to transfer money to your friend, you will do a Google Pay or a Phone Pay or a Paytm, right? If you wanted to pay fees to your college, you will pay that online using your net banking and mobile banking, right? Basically, almost every work in the bank was digitized, and digitized to such a level that now the bankers were not doing any work in the branch. As in, of course, they were doing some work, but the way people were sitting and doing operational work, filling up registers or doing data entry in PCs, now the data entry was being done by the customers themselves. So customers were on self-service mode now. If you want to withdraw cash, you will go to the ATM, punch in the request, take the cash and go. Banker will not do any work for you. If you want to transfer money using Google Pay or Phone Pay, you will use your mobile phone, punch in all the requirements, put in all the mobile number or account number and other details. You will do all the data entry work, not the banker. Banker is not doing any work. You are doing the data entry work as a customer. So what changed was the work moved from bankers to the customers now. And that is a big item that many of us still have not appreciated it fully. So therefore, what happened? The number of operational work happening in bank branches have drastically reduced, especially in the last 2 years because of COVID, even more so, because people now have realized that without going to the branch, without meeting anybody in person also, you can do almost everything that you want to do with a bank using a mobile phone or an ATM or net banking. You can do almost everything. This graph actually indicates that just 10 years back, in a major private sector bank, branches were doing 20% of the operational work. In 2020, and this is before COVID, mind you, 2020 is beginning of COVID. In 2020 itself, branches transaction volume has fallen to just 3%. 95% of the transactions are now happening on the internet and mobile, which means that the banker is jobless, as in there is no operational work left for the banker. When it is happening on the internet and mobile, all the work is being done by the customers themselves, right? So this is an important aspect that all of you should remember, so that now that you know that banking has a lot of job opportunities, and you also now know that banking has very less operational work now in the branches. There are still some work happening, but not much. So what is the kind of work then in branches that will happen now? So remember what I said a little while back, customer handling, sales and relationship jobs, where you actually meet customers, talk to customers, solve their problems, financial problems, and sell them more products from the bank side. That is the kind of work that exists in today's banks. So if you still keep thinking that I want to do an operational job in a bank, you are 5 years too late, right? So if you not 5 years too late, even if you had joined a bank 5 years back, by now, most of your operational work would have moved out from you. And you will be asked by the branch, okay, now you have to start doing more sales and customer handling work, not operational work, because there is not enough work for operations. Okay, so therefore, broadly, what is happening now is, if you see this graph, I have divided that graph in banking into 4 large segments of people. One is there are people required to collect money from customers. When you give loans, you also have to go back and collect the money. So that is called the collections team, right? So that team in banks requires some number of people. There are some number of people required to do credit decision, whether to give a loan to somebody or not. That is credit. That also requires some number of people. Then, even though operations work has reduced, but still some work is happening in branches even now. So operations also requires some people. But if you see the majority of the blue, right, that is for business roles, the customer handling and sales and relationship handling roles. So if you are looking for a job, then you should get ready for somebody to get into a business kind of role, into customer handling, sales and relationship kind of roles. Okay, so this is a summary of how a banking career would pan out for you. So in an entry-level job, you will have a lot more external sales to do. Little bit of operational work in some jobs, but in majority of the jobs will be outside sales kind of role. After about 1 or 2 years of working, then you move into HNI relationship management. You handle high net worth customers, people who are rich customers. They will take bigger loans and bigger deposits and all that, right? So after about 1 or 2 years, you move up into that level. You then become very high net worth customer handling relationship manager. And after about 5-6 years, if you are good, you should be ready to become a branch manager. And this is the typical journey that you will see for yourself if you join a banking career, right? So, typically that you should, one of the things that you should keep in your mind is in 5-6 years time, I should hope to become a branch manager, right? And from there, it is becoming a cluster head, regional head, zonal head, and then national head and country head and all that, right? From the second level onwards, which is the personal banker onwards, almost every single role is business or sales focused. At the entry level, there will still be some job called cashier, customer service officer and all that. Only for entry level people, there will be still some jobs in operational work. But as and when you become more senior, the operations goes out, you will become more and more a business oriented person, right? And this is the kind of average salary that I've shown. At an entry level, like I said, 20-25,000 per month. From at a personal banker level, you are in the range of 25,000 to 35,000 kind of salary. These are not exact figures, right? These are just indicative so that you get an idea. When you become a relationship manager, your salary levels could be in the range of 30,000 to 70-80,000 rupee per month. By the time you become a branch manager, it will be between 50,000 per month to 1.5 lakh per month. And then as you go up, then the salary kind of keeps ballooning quite significantly after that, right? So this is the kind of career graph that you can visualize for yourself. Since I mentioned about sales, one of the things that people have come to me quite often and say is that sales is difficult, because that is what people have told them. Their friends have told them that sales is a difficult thing, right? So while I will not say it is very easy to do, but having done sales in my own career, I don't think it is such a difficult thing to do if you understand the basics right? But before we even get into it, just understand what is banking all about from a customer's perspective. Look at it from a customer's perspective. Every individual in the country or in the world today mandatorily requires a bank account. Actually, even the government of India had a scheme where they were pushing even the poorest of poor person in India was made to open a bank account with support from banks. Over the last 3-4 years, Prime Minister's Jan Dhan Yojana and all that, you would have heard about it. Government insisted that everybody should have a bank account. So government, when they give subsidies and other benefits to poor people, they actually route it directly to the bank account. What it means is that for every individual, a bank account is a mandatory requirement. It is not a matter of choice. Today, everybody will have a bank account. They will actually have multiple bank accounts, but for sure, they will have at least one bank account, right? What about loans? Most customers, almost every single customer today will need loans. May not be today, they will need it tomorrow. They may need a home loan for buying a house. They may need a two-wheeler loan or a car loan, or they want to marry their daughter, so therefore they might need some personal loan, or they want some medical expenditure, so they may need some loan. They may take a gold loan, or they are running a business, so therefore they may need a business loan, right? Or they want to buy a truck, so therefore a truck kind of loan, or even agriculture loan, right? So everybody needs some kind of loan or the other, and they'll keep requiring more and more loans over the long term, right? What about savings and investment? Everybody, why are people working today? People are working because they want to become rich in a way. They want to save money, they want to invest their money, they want to become rich, right? So for that, you need some investment or savings platform. And banks are again the tool for providing that kind of an investment or savings options for customers, whether it is through mutual fund or ULIPs or fixed deposits or any government schemes, right? banks provide all these kind of different options for people to save or invest their money. Every individual needs a life insurance. Every individual, whoever is earning needs a life insurance. Somebody who has a financial dependent needs a life insurance. Every individual needs a health insurance. Today, hospitalization expenses are very high. So every individual needs a health insurance, right? What am I trying to point out to you? What am I trying to say here is very simple, that for every single person that you will meet, they will need quite a lot of products or services from the bank, whether it is in the form of bank account or different kinds of loans, different kinds of savings or investment options, or different kinds of life and health and other insurance products, credit card, lockers. I have not even added everything else, right? The range of product offering that a bank has is phenomenally large. And every single customer needs lots of these products. Most of them are not a choice item. So if customers need these products, selling it cannot be that difficult. Just think about it. If your customer actually wants to buy a house and therefore he needs a home loan, when you give him a home loan, what is so difficult about selling that home loan to him? The customer actually needs the home loan. You are only facilitating. When you give him that loan, he actually becomes very happy that you actually solved his problem, right? So sales in banking is actually that easy. And the last important thing, you all know that customers also love good service, right? Beyond all these products, they also want somebody to service them well. So if you can be that one person who can service your customers well, and you can meet all their requirements that they have on the financial side by bank accounts or loans or credit cards or investment products or insurance products, right? You will have so much opportunities to sell to them. And sales, you will realize, is not that difficult a thing to do, because customers need them. And you are only facilitating it for the customer, right? If a customer wants to buy a car, he needs a car loan, more or less. And you are just facilitating it for him. He needs to invest his money. He wants to make more returns out of it. You are facilitating him to invest in mutual funds or other schemes, right? So that is how useful your service is for all of them. Okay, so just a quick summary as to where we stand today. Banking is a great, safe, and rewarding career. Why I say safe? One simple reason. Banks cannot close down like any other company can. No company you will see, no bank you will see suddenly closing down, and because people's deposits are there with the banks. No government worldwide will allow a bank to just fold up, because it relies on customers' deposits, right? No government would want poor people to lose their deposits, which is why you will never see a bank closing down, right? So great, safe, and rewarding career. More suited for customer-oriented and sales profile. So please stop thinking that operational role. Operations is a bad job in banking today, honestly. And sales is a very easy thing to do. Back-end operational jobs are both less in demand and less rewarding. In terms of salaries also, the operational jobs will pay the lower salary than sales jobs. The operational jobs are likely to be even more non-existent over the next 5 years. So what you have seen lately, it will become even more digitized over the next 5-10 years. Banking sales is easier than what your friends will tell you. So that was just so if you were to summarize, so what are the 7 steps? So if you think that you would want to head this way, what are the 7 steps for a good banking job if you want to get into a banking career? Okay, understand the career and the job. I give you some perspective of it, right? That my intention of today's session was to give you that perspective, which hopefully I've given a little bit of it. Of course, you can get more and more, and knowledge, like somebody was mentioning a little while back at the start of the session, is something that you should keep aspiring to get more and more information and knowledge from everywhere possible, which will help you to get a better idea about this career and this job, right? Improve your banking and communication skills. Don't just rely on a particular degree. Today, education is a lifelong endeavor. Don't think that once you have graduated, your education is over. Actually, that is just the start of your education process. Not start, but it is just at the very beginning of your education process. You have another 30, 35 years of learning left in you. All through your career, you will have to keep upskilling yourself. Never rely on one skill that you have today. That skill may be redundant and useless in another 5 years' time. Unless you keep improving your skill levels, keep adding to your skill levels, whether it be through some more higher education or whether it is through some upskilling programs that are happening either through colleges or any other third party, keep doing more and more of it, because that is what will help you to stand out in this crowd, right? Communication skill is a very, very important item in banking because it is a customer handling role. So you are therefore face to face with customers, right? So communication skills is another hugely important item for any career rather. It's not just in banking and financial services. Communication skills, I can tell you, is something which is very, very important for any career that you want to get into. There are many other soft skills that you need to have, but out of which communication actually stands out. It is the number one important skill that you should develop, right? So do whatever it takes to improve your communication skills. Add to your, it does not mean only English language skills, but English language is a big positive for anyone who knows a little bit of it. It is not that you need to be an expert in English language. Of course, you can improve your expertise, but get into some amount of talking and conversation in English. It will always help you in your career. Figure out the vacancies. Actually, in private sector bank, figuring out vacancies is not that easy. They don't actually come out with any newspaper ad or any such advertisements, right? So therefore, it may be a little difficult, right? You can reach across to companies like us, which help you in that. You can also go to the career sites on the bank's websites, create a LinkedIn profile and start following people on LinkedIn, and that will also give you some perspective of the vacancies available. And you can even barge into branches and go and present your CV and ask for vacancies there. Those are also good techniques available for you to figure out the vacancies. Prepare a decent resume. This is again something that I've seen in young people, that they don't take it very seriously. Although resumes do not help you get a job, but a bad resume can kill your job option for you. If somebody just sees a bad resume, he may just throw it out, right? It does not mean that if you make a good resume, you will get that job. No, but at least you don't get rejected. So to that extent, ensure that your basic things on resume are okay. Like, it's not about some complicated English there. Only write English which you will understand. Don't write some very complicated English and then the interviewer asks you something on that. As a candidate, you should not be therefore finding it difficult to explain what you have written in the resume, right? So it is not about complicated English. Follow simple English, but write it up neatly. Prepare for the interview. Don't just walk into an interview. There are 30 lakh people who graduate out of Indian colleges every single year. So competition is there. Competition is tight, right? So ensure that you do your serious work before going in for any interview. Of course, professional help can always come in handy for you. Some banks also have a test, not all banks. PSU banks have a test. In private sector banks, some banks also do a test. The private sector bank tests are much easier than PSU bank test, right? Because private sectors don't rely on this test. They actually rely much more on the interview. They use the test as a pass or fail option, right? This test will typically include a little bit of English knowledge, test of reasoning, quantitative aptitude kind of things, right? And once you get the job, in most of these jobs in future, you will realize that getting a job is one part of the challenge, but keeping the job is also an equally big challenge, because you will have to keep yourself upskilled and keep yourself performing better and better. That is the only way to feel safe and secure in your job. No job in future will be secure for you unless you are ready to upskill yourself and put in enough effort from your side to stay ahead of the competition. If you are performing badly, no job is safe, except in government jobs, in clerical jobs in governments. You will find that even if you are a bad performer, possibly you can continue till retirement, right? But in no private sector, not just banks, in any sector, whether it is IT or any other industry, if you are not performing reasonably well enough, they will not be keeping you in the job for too long, right? It does not mean that it is so difficult. It is not that difficult. You only have to perform better than the average guy. And it is not such a difficult task. If anybody with reasonable common sense, basic intelligence, and hardworking in nature will be able to do well in their career without fail. It is not such a difficult thing to do, right? Okay, so not taking too much of your time, but just quickly, we actually work with many banks and train people for getting into banking jobs. And basically, we train them and we give them 100% guaranteed job placement. That is what we basically do, right? Not taking too much time right now, but as if and when you need something, you can of course get in touch with the team that is bringing to you this particular webinar, and they will help you out. There is a community forum because all of your students, I thought it might be something of help to you. So again, I'm not taking too much of your time here. BigC has an Android app. It functions on only one. It's a community forum for bankers and people who are looking to get into banking sector. So young people like you and people who are experienced enough in the industry. What does this do? There are only Q&A, questions and answers and posts on the banking subject knowledge. So there are only two things that you will see on that app, either banking subject related or something about banking job opportunities. Nothing else you will see there. So this is something which is a forum where you can ask anybody, somebody knowing the answer will answer, right? Basically, it will help you to stay in touch with the banking industry, and it is absolutely free of charge for everybody, right? Anybody can log in, anybody can start using it from today. It is absolutely zero cost for you, and it's just banking knowledge and banking job opportunities, nothing else. Right, so this is what it does. Learn banking, ask questions, build network, learn the professional lingo, be aware of the subjects that matter beyond textbooks, get career ready, look beyond degrees, learn what it takes to start your new job, know people in the industry, know the various functions there, know the companies, join the group of fellow job seekers, clarify your doubt from other job seekers, be aware of job opportunities. This is broadly what the app does. So it is available on Google Play Store. You can type BigC, BYGC, and that is the app that covers all this, right? I think that's about it from me. This is about close to an hour, and thank you, everybody. And now I will be happy to take any questions if anybody has. Okay, so I can see some questions in the chat box. I'll read out and answer them. BigC course age limit. So the age limit is similar to what the banks allow. So if the bank allows a particular age limit, we allow that. So because we don't do any training for the sake of training, we only train you so that you get the job, right? So typically in most banks, they are okay to take freshers up till about 27, 28 years, right? So which hopefully none of you will be crossing about 24, 25 levels by now, right? So you don't have a problem message. So anybody who's 21 plus and up till 28, if you are a fresher, and if you are experienced, then you can be even older than that, no problem, as long as you come with some experience. Okay, how can I contact you, sir? So I think you should get in touch with, like I said, the people who brought you this webinar, your college authorities and everybody, and they will in turn get in touch with us. Therefore, we will provide you the help that whatever you may need. Can you explain how NISM certificate helpful? Yes, it is helpful in two careers. Suppose you get into a mutual fund industry. NISM has various certificates, not just one. So if you do an NISM certificate, mutual fund distribution module is something which most colleges also help you get into that course. That helps you either in a mutual fund career or in a securities job or even in a retail banking job. Because even as a retail banker, you will be selling mutual funds. And in India, if you have to sell mutual fund, you need to be NISM certified. That is a mandatory requirement. Just like having a license if you want to drive your car. Similarly, if you want to sell mutual fund, you need to be NISM certified. Similarly, on the insurance side, if you want to sell insurance, then you should be IRDA certified. Correct? So those are a couple of certificates which most people kind of get themselves certified on. Presently, I'm working in STP Financials, how to upgrade my career in bank. So Purvi, one of the things that I mentioned was constantly upskill yourself. Don't just rely on your experience. Your experience is always useful. But there are things which you will be expected to do in your new role. When you want to upgrade your career, your role requires slightly better knowledge on many other things, right? And it helps to get a better job. So why do you do your college? Because that will help you get a better job. Why will somebody do some post-graduation? Hopefully that will also help you get a better job. Why will you do some certification courses with people like us? Because that will help you get a better job. Why will you do NISM? Similarly, to help you get a better job. So with experience and skills, two things, unbeatable combination. If you have skills and if you have experience, you are very good, right? So that is what you should do. Get in touch with people like us. So it's not just us. So since you are looking for this industry, you can look at, there are companies like Times Pro, there is a company called Imarticus, there is a company called NIIT, there is Manipal also as a Manipal University as a school of banking. Apart from Big C, these are also people who do similar work that we are doing, right? So from your perspective, you may want to look at them also, right? One of the reasons why we stand out from them is because our cost is much lower than theirs. It is at least half of what they charge. And we also give you a lot of good payment options where you only have to pay a very small amount initially, and most of the payment you have to do only after you get the job, right? So rest, everything is more or less similar in all these companies. These private bank also have transferred to different places like government bank. So much lesser transfer in private sector bank, right? So I will tell you, so in 8 years time in state bank, so just so that you get an idea, in 8 years of state bank, I have worked in Mumbai, Ahmedabad, Kanyakumari, a couple of places in Kerala. So I worked in some 5-6 places in 8 years in state bank. I worked for 18 years in HDFC Bank, 18 years, 1/8. I only worked in 3 cities, right? 18 years in 3 cities and 8 years in some 6 cities, right? So that's the difference. So while they do transfer, but it is less. And most of the transfers are, at least at the junior level, is dependent more on you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. It was a wonderful session. We got to a lot of information about banking career, and the youngsters, a lot of people who joined here definitely have got a great benefit out of this. And also thanks, you have taken full time to take all the questions in the chat room. If any people wants to unmute on the phone, ask. We have another 2 minutes time. You can ask a question. Sir, I have one question. Do you have any course or video, something like how to use as an individual customer, how to use all the bank service effectively?
It is impossible to put everything in one video. So honestly, so that is something which you will get from personal financial advisory services, not from somebody who trains people for jobs. So because ours will be more extensive. It is not,
yes, sir. Yes,
it is not directed at a customer. It is directed at a professional.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. Sure.
So
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
That difference you will see.
Yeah, thank you. Because I always feel that my RM from my bank, I always feel that they are normally give like oversell like whatever they have. Okay, even though you don't need, we don't oversell. And it's
Correct,
true,
correct.
like in everyone's life, more than our WhatsApp message everywhere. We nowadays, like we see every day our banking, like what is their account and what is our demand, or how much stocks we have, how much fund has come, whether a dividend has come. So every day we engage with the bank. So without banks, I think it's like you don't have any cash at all. Having wallet is as equivalent to having a network with your bank and your RM.
Absolutely.
So thank you, sir. Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you. And all the students who have participated here, it's really for you I'm Ashur, like I hope like you have a great learning. Thanks Aurobindo College and this organization for organizing this great session. And I request all the participants, there is a link is been added in a chat room. So kindly connect and give your feedback. Through this feedback, you can also add your details. So you will get a certificate through email, whatever email ID you provide in a feedback form. So if no one has any questions.
Hi Salim, good evening. Hi
Yes.
Sri Kumar, good morning. Good evening. Yeah. So I'd like to highlight one more point regarding this banking industry. Like, so if you see, like Bangalore is one of the major fintech hub in India, right? So who are like looking for banking aspirants.
Stretching.
Even I feel to try for fintechs company. There are a lot of fintech companies available in Bangalore. I don't think only it's like a private bank or a government bank. Even you can start if you have an idea about how to operate the banking functionalities, even you can start your own company as a startup, right? So think, beyond boundaries, it's very high effectively, you can try for a lot of fintech companies. If you name like Paytm, we have PhonePe, we have a lot of fintech companies we have. So even if you have any, assumption to try with technical skills, you can join engineering team. If you have a sales skills, you can join for sales development skills and jobs. So you have a lot of opportunity in fintech space.
Sure.
Thank you very much, Prasanna, for adding more values. Thank you, Mr. Sri Kumar, again for this wonderful session. And I request Professor Preeti Hukkeri to give a vote of thanks for this session.
So am I audible, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
We can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. Good evening, all. I, Srimati Preeti Hukkeri, Assistant Professor, Sri Aurobindo College, deem it a great honor and privilege to propose vote of thanks for this great learning session. First and foremost, I thank our guest speaker, Mr. Sri Kumar Nair, founder and CEO of BYDC, ex-senior VP HDFC Bank, who has addressed the changes and challenges in the Indian banking sector and also gave us an idea about the career prospects in banking sector. The session was quite informative. Thank you, sir. I also extend my sincere thanks to Mr. Shri Prasad KM, co-founder and executive director, Disciples India, for organizing this session. Thank you, sir. I also owe thanks to Dr. Satish M, DIL Forum. Thank you, sir. My heartfelt thanks to our Principal Ma'am, Dr. Shailaja M, Sri Aurobindo College, for her constant support and encouragement for all these kind of sessions. Thank you, ma'am. I would also like to thank Mr. Salim Basha for the wonderful introduction and orientating us about Disciples India. Thank you, sir. I thank Srimati Madhura R, Assistant Professor, Sri Aurobindo College, for welcoming the guest speaker and briefing about Sri Aurobindo College. Last but not the least, I would also like to thank the faculty members and student participants for their presence. Thank you all. Thank you all once again and have a great weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I request everyone to connect with DIL Forum. Continuously, this session will be there every once in 2 weeks. It will be there. Every fortnightly, we have this kind of a session. People who want to get network with DIL Forum, DIL Learning Forum, request you can contact our committee members. All the contact details in the committee members is being displayed here. You can also email that your name and your phone number to the DIL Learning Forum @gmail.com. So people from a DIL Forum also will contact you. This DIL Forum Learning Forum is a very good platform for all of professors, even students, on our corporate employees, everyone. Like every time you have this session, you will definitely learn a new, and that makes you more upskilling. That will be more effective and good knowledgeable sessions. You learn a lot here. So it's again, we will have very good network with a very wide ways, where we can also be a very good counselor or a suggester for all our family members or known people. So thank you once again for giving this great opportunity from DIL Forum. And we are ending this session. Thank you all.